Great, so recording is on. So hello everyone, I'm Shannon Turner and I'm a software developer with ActionKit, and I'd like to talk to you today about how you can protect your member data using two-factor authentication. But first, what is two-factor authentication? Well, we're used to logging on to our accounts on the web using one-factor authentication. You just need to know your password and then you're in. But there's a form of two-factor authentication that you might be familiar with. You ever try to get money from the ATM? You can't just get money out by using your ATM card. You also need your PIN. So to get money out, you need something that you know, which is your PIN, and something that you have, which is your ATM card. Two-factor authentication for the internet is pretty similar. You need something that you know, which is your password, and something that you have, which is your phone. And why is two-factor authentication so important? Well, think about all of the sensitive data that you have on your membership, where they live, what actions they've taken, donations that they've given, all of that, right? Your members really trust you with that information. And the best way that you can honor that trust is to do everything you can to protect their data. And two-factor authentication is one of the best ways to secure that, because even if someone got your ActionKit password, they still wouldn't be able to log into your account unless they also had your phone. So how does two-factor authentication work? Well, ActionKit's not the only platform that offers two-factor authentication. Many platforms do, for instance, Gmail. If I wanted to log into my Gmail account, I put in my username and my password on the login screen, pretty standard. But after I've entered in my password, Google says, hey, Shannon, we just sent a text message to your phone with a 6-digit code. What's that code that we just sent to you? And unless you had my phone, there's no way that you'd be able to guess what that code was. So you're not getting into my account. Now, it doesn't just have to be a text message. There's also smartphone apps that will do the same thing, like Google Authenticator or Authy, for example. Two-factor authentication with ActionKit works pretty much the same way. You still need your username and password, but you'll also need a two-factor code to be able to log in. But how do we get this code in the first place? Well, let's take a look at how it works with ActionKit. So before I get started with this, let me preface this by saying that this is the part that you will need each of your staff members to do. That's why I've included screenshots throughout this whole process to make your jobs easier. This is also be a recording, and you'll also get a copy of these slides. So first, I'm going to log into my ActionKit account. Here I have my username and my password. Next, you'll click the gear in the upper right-hand corner of any ActionKit page, and you'll go to two-factor authentication. And then ActionKit's going to walk you through each step in setting this up. So if you're ready to go, let's click that big blue button. And yep, I'm ready, so let's click next. And then after a few of those clicks, now we get to a screen where we have a few choices. And you can get your two-factor code by either smartphone app or phone call or text message. Now, which method you choose is really up to you, and each staff member gets to choose for themselves which one they want. Generally speaking, smartphone app is more secure, but it can be a little less convenient than a text message or a phone call, since you need to have a smartphone app like Google Authenticator or Authy installed. For this demo, I'm going to choose smartphone app. So here on this screen, I've chosen smartphone app. and on the next screen, I'm prompted to scan a QR code with my smartphone app. So I pull out my smartphone, I open my Google Authenticator app or my Authy app or whatever similar app that you prefer, and I scan that QR code. And this might seem like a lot to do, but remember, this is just the one-time setup and you won't have to scan a QR code every time, just this once. Once you've done that, you'll get a code on your phone that you can enter here where it says token. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a screenshot from my phone that has that 6-digit token. Now you have two-factor authentication all set up and you're good to go. The next time you log in, you'll log in as normal with your ActionKit username and password, and then you'll also need the two-factor code from your smartphone app as well. You're done. And that was easy, and I would think probably a lot quicker than you expected. These next few screens are really just in case you lose your phone. So if you were to lose your phone after you've set up two-factor authentication with the smartphone app option, it prompts you, hey, do you want to add a backup phone number that I can send a code to? Strictly speaking, you don't need to do this, but I'm going to show you this step because it also illustrates how you'd set up two-factor authentication if you didn't go with the smartphone app option and instead opted for the phone or text message option. So I click to add my backup phone number, and then I type in my phone number here. And in this example, I'm opting to receive a text message to my phone number as a backup. Now, you're all done now, and you probably won't use this account security screen much, if at all, but I'm showing it just so you know it's there if you ever need to make changes to your two-factor device. There's a lot on this account security page, so I've broken it up into a few screenshots. Here we can see our backup phone number, and if you needed to unregister the phone number, if you changed your actual phone number, you can do that here. And this is where you'd get your backup codes in case you lose your phone, or if you change your two-factor device, if you got a new phone, or if you lost a trusted device like your laptop. Again, you probably won't use this screen much, if at all. Hopefully you won't have to, but just know that it's there in case you need it. So those past few slides were really just backup in case something went wrong, you lose your phone, you lose your laptop. But we set up two-factor authentication pretty quickly. So let's take it for a spin, right? Remember, all of those previous screenshots, those were the one-time setup. Once you've set it up, it's much quicker in your day-to-day. So here I'm entering my username and my password, just like usual. And after entering my password, I get my phone, I open my Google Authenticator or Authy or other similar smartphone app where I scanned that QR code a few slides back. Or if I wanted to, I could click the button to receive a text message to my phone number that I registered as a backup. I get my two-factor code that I can type in, and then I'm in. That's it. Very quick, very easy. You might notice this box that says, remember me on this computer for 30 days. If you prefer, you can check that box to have ActionKit remember the device that you're logging into for 30 days, like your laptop. For that 30-day period, you won't need to re-enter a new two-factor authentication code. But once those 30 days are up, you'll need a new two-factor code again. As long as you're logging in with a trusted device like your own laptop that's for work and not shared, I think it's just fine. And if that makes it easier to get folks on board with two-factor authentication, great, use it. I do want to say really quickly one word of caution if you're using a password manager. And I don't mean to pick on LastPass here. I'm sure other password managers struggle with this too. Generally, using LastPass or another password manager is great because it lets you create very long, very complicated passwords that are super secure. You don't have to remember them. And that's great because strong passwords are wonderful. But password managers aren't always very smart. And when I used LastPass, it always thought, oh, Shannon, you changed your password to this 6-digit two-factor token. And it offered to save it for me. As in, hey Shannon, let me delete your old password and overwrite it with this new temporary two-factor token that's going to change every time. That's super unhelpful. So if you or your staff use LastPass or some other password manager, please keep this in mind. Otherwise, you'll probably be resetting a lot of passwords. Now, the question that I get from folks whenever I talk about two-factor authentication is, what if I lose my phone? Well, we can handle that. So let's say our user, Shannon here, she has two-factor authentication set up, but she lost her phone. Normally, she'd be locked out of her ActionKit account, right? Well, we can create a one-time token for her that will let her in while she gets her new phone. From the Staff tab, we open her user page and we click Get Token for User, highlighted in red here. And on the next page, here we get this one-time code that we can give to Shannon, and she'll be able to log in again. So even if you get locked out of your account, another staff member can help out. And I should note, if this is for a new staff member, give them that token that appears on this page along with the URL that's provided on this screen at the bottom, and they'll be able to log in and set up their two-factor device all at once. Now remember, everyone who has an ActionKit login is going to need to set up two-factor authentication for themselves individually, which means you need to get folks on board. You need to get that staff buy-in. I think what works well is emphasizing that this is about protecting your members' data and honoring the trust that they place in you. And the other half is just making it as easy as possible for everyone on staff to set this up. I hope this presentation helps in that. And remember, you'll be getting the slides in the recording as well. And I'll send you a sample email that you can send around to your colleagues debriefing this webinar. This might seem a little silly, but trust me, it works wonders. Track your progress. Create a spreadsheet with all of your colleagues who need to set up two-factor authentication and mark down whether someone has done it or not, and when you last followed up with them. You can also check the Staff tab in ActionKit and look for the two-factor tag to see whether someone has set it up or not. Here we can see that Shannon has set up two-factor authentication. We see it highlighted in red, but Tanya has not. Just to make everything super easy on you, I'll provide a sample spreadsheet that you can copy when I give you the slides. And you'll also want to make two-factor authentication mandatory. Once all of your staff are using two-factor authentication, contact ActionKit support, file a ticket, and we can flip the switch to make two-factor authentication mandatory, required for all logins. That doesn't affect API access if you're using it, so don't worry about that. You'll also want to make sure that everyone has two-factor authentication set up first before you ask us to make it mandatory. Otherwise, staff members who haven't set it up yet, they'll be locked out of their accounts, and you'll need to generate a one-time code for them to be able to log in and set up two-factor authentication. So that was probably a lot quicker than you thought, but if you have any questions or have trouble setting up two-factor with your team, go ahead, file a support ticket. We'll be happy to help. I'll be taking questions in just a minute. And as promised, we didn't take up the full hour, and that was on purpose. You now have the rest of the time to set up two-factor authentication yourself and see how quick and easy it is. Right after this is over, I'm going to send you all the slides, all the materials promised, like the tracking spreadsheet, and once the recording is ready, probably on Monday, I'll follow up with that as well. So now I'm going to open it for questions.
Hey Shannon, this is Patrick, and thank you so much for doing this. This is really, really great. I just wanted to make a quick, just underline something that you said, which is that You've got a choice here between using a text message and using an application, and if setting up two-factor with text message is definitely better than not having two-factor at all. But if you're doing this, sort of from a blank sheet, you're just getting started. My strong recommendation would be to go with an application for your team, if possible, just because there have been a number of cases where people have been able to steal phone numbers from folks by calling Verizon, pretending to be them, and getting a new SIM card, stuff like that. Pretty out there attack, but it has happened in the real world. So if you've got a choice between an app and text message, I would choose the app. But that being said, if it's a choice between folks not adopting two-factor and adopting it with text messaging, so definitely better to go with two-factor with text messaging than nothing at all. Just my 2 cents I wanted to get in there. But that was great. Thanks for doing this.
It's a great point, Patrick. Thanks for bringing that up. Does anyone have any questions? Or if you want to put it in the chat, I can answer those as well. And of course, if you think of something right after we hang up on the webinar, you can always file a support ticket and we'll be glad to help.